Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Let Loose podcast dedicated to the Gym Leader Challenge format. I'm Jeff Bass, your host, and I am joined by our first ever co-host, Basquid. Basquid, what's up, man?
Hey Jeff, man, I appreciate you having me on here, dude. I know I said it before, but I just want to put it on the record. I really appreciate you thinking about me, man. And it's gonna excited, looking forward to this.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited about this. Yeah, it's been like a couple weeks in the works here. It's an idea I've had for a while, like really like a couple of months going back. Just thinking back to like Beast of Vasco was trying to stream a little bit more, and I was like, hey, why don't we do a podcast? And I was like, could I actually do a podcast? So here we are. We're doing it. So your co-host in this episode, I got like a couple of other GLC personalities coming up. Like it's gonna be great, dude. I'm so excited. So appreciative to you for joining us today.
Yeah,
Huge
yeah.
ups.
I know everyone else is looking forward to it too, man. Just wanted to say, like, on behalf of everybody, yeah, we appreciate you thinking of us and doing this because we're starved for that GLC content, bro. We love this stuff, so let's let's get into.
So, Basquid, we're here today. We're talking about Gym Leader Challenge, and we're really talking about Gym Leader Challenge beginnings and like how to get into the format, what type of decks new players should be looking at, who you're going to play with, all those things. What are your GLC first steps? This is your GLC starter deck. That's what we're all about today. So let's get into it. First things first, what's the Gym Leader Challenge format all about? So we got a couple rules that you guys got to follow if you're looking to hop into this format. It's very different from standard. Basquid, I know you're a standard guy. I'm not much
Yeah,
of a standard guy myself. But the rules are very different. So here they are. Let's just get to it. So number one, got to make sure your deck contains cards of only one type. Hey, you're a fighting gym leader. You better have only fighting Pokemon in your deck. All right, that's as simple as it gets. You can't have Pokemon of different types. Number two, hey, only one of each card name in your deck. So, hey, if you're playing a Professor's Research, you can't play another Professor's Research. Only one of each card is allowed. There are a couple of like specific rules that you can have to follow here. Like Professor's Research, which I just mentioned, you can't play Professor's Research and Professor Sycamore because they're considered the same card. Basically, it goes back to an expanded rule. The same thing with Lysander and Boss's Order. And then kind of the last two rules here, which are kind of like the big thing that separates it from standard rules box Pokemon, not allowed. So you can't play your Vs, your V Stars, your G Max, whatever those things are. You can't play them. And those are kind of the things that attract like newer people to GLC. I think a lot of kids get really hyped for those cards. I think that's one of the reasons why GLC has like maybe a higher age floor than some of the other formats. Like I don't know if I've ever seen any kids really play GLC. Basket, are you when you play in your locals and stuff, you seeing kids playing GLC?
so the only ones are my daughter who's 11, and then there's this other kid. He's 8 who plays GLC, and he hates it. So he has a little harder time because of the restrictions on there. But yeah, it's usually older ones like our age around there.
Yeah, I think it just has to go back with like when I started collecting cards, it was 1999, and I just really wanted to like trade with cards with the people on the playground. I never really played the game, and then as I got older, I was like, you know what, hey, I want to play again. And then at that point, there were just these like super overpowered cards that were like beyond recognition. Like, what the heck is Mew VMAX doing? Like, this card is ridiculous. It's insane. Just give me good old like single prize. Like, it costs 1 energy, it does 30 damage. That's all I want. Give me a
And
haymaker,
that's
basic.
yes, I'm right there with that's the charm of it, right? Because like you go and I'm also from the first generation older cards, so I want to play with my Squirtles, I want to play with my Bulbasaurs, right? I want to use that and the single prizers. Nowadays in standard, there's not really your favorite cards anymore. You got to play like what's the strong ones. So the charm of Gym Leader Challenge is like you said, the older version, slower format, single prizers, things like that.
100%. So I think again we talked about rules box Pokemon aren't allowed, and again I think that's like the best thing about this format. The last kind of rule that we have to go over, especially since this just came out in the latest set of Pokemon, is ace spec cards aren't allowed. I don't know if ace specs are technically considered rules box or not, but they're singleton and standard, so it just doesn't make sense in like a 4 card format. If you're making it a singleton, don't shove it into your singleton focus format. Keep those ace spec cards out of here.
And they're
Besides
too
that,
powerful. Yeah, too
oh yeah,
powerful.
100%. I don't like Prime Catcher is basically Boss's Order, but on an item card, like that card would just be bonkers in GLC. So again, ace spec cards, adios, we don't want you. Besides that, that's Gym Leader Challenge. There's a small ban list. I think it's like less than 10 cards. It doesn't quite follow the expanded ban list, even though we're using the expanded card pool to play. But the ban list is so small. It's so great because then you don't have to worry about like your favorite card really getting banned anytime soon. Mr. Mahone, who is the person who came up with the Gym Leader Challenge format, that's Andrew Mahone. He's Tricky Jim on all the social media stuff, Twitch, YouTube, all that stuff. He came up with this format. He's done a great job of keeping track of the ban list. He listens to the people typically. We have discussions all the time in his Discord about what cards should be banned. So kudos to him for making this awesome, sweet format. And again, keeping it, I don't want to say balanced because Gym Leader Challenge is hard to keep balanced, but he does a
Yeah.
great job of at least keeping things in check. So now the next thing, you know what Gym Leader Challenge is? You're looking to play, you're looking to get a deck. What's next on your thing? Well, hey, this is how you get started. Number one, pick a deck. Number two, have a friend. You got to have someone to play with. When
Yeah.
I first started playing, it was literally just like I had just bought 1999 retro cards. And I was playing with my friend. Sometimes we would go to a coffee shop. We were both teachers, so sometimes we'd stay after school and we'd play with each other, just like right there in our classrooms. And we were like, "Oh, cool! Retro 1999 Pokemon is fun, but I want to play some other Pokemon too." And that's when we heard about Gym Leader Challenge, and that's how we got into it. That's like basically my entire Gym Leader Challenge adventure was jumping straight from 1999 only cards to all of a sudden I'm playing 2011 onward in this weird niche format, which it's been great. I mean, super
How
fun.
long ago was that? How long ago was that, Jeff, when you started playing?
So I always think back to I started streaming. Like my YouTube channel was existed like, or at least was born in December of 2022, and I had only
22.
been playing 2 months before that. Like Jim Leader Challenge 2 months before that. Like I created my like YouTube and Twitch channel just because I wanted to show people like in my community this is what
Yeah.
the Gym Leader Challenge is all about. So that's kind of what got me into content creating, and that's why I'm here now is just 2 months worth of like figuring out how to play the format to creating content about it.
So I feel like I just knowing you, I feel like you've been playing Pokemon for like a long time. But yeah, so only like what, less than 2 years almost?
Yeah, so I played a lot of Magic the Gathering, which was like,
Ah, that's
yeah,
where it
yeah.
comes from.
I've played card games. I've been a card game enthusiast for a while now. Magic the Gathering is considered by many either to be the best or the worst.
Yeah.
So going from that to Gym Leader Challenge was again a bit of a I had to get used to it. Like I definitely had to become accustomed to what Pokemon was about. Prizing is the worst. Like if you're
You know,
coming from another TCG, you just look at prizing and you're like, why does this exist? But
yeah, yeah. So when you picked the deck, did you go just based off like your favorite type of Pokemon, or how'd you pick a deck when you were
yeah, so
starting?
my first deck, so obviously I think I go where everyone starts, and that's kind of our next little key point here is like, hey, you're trying to pick a deck. There's three things I tell people to do all the time. Choose your favorite type, choose your favorite Pokemon, choose your preferred playstyle. Well, for me, it was I picked my favorite Pokemon, which was Meganium. So I have like three favorites. It's Meganium, Crobat, and Krabby. And there wasn't really a super playable Crobat when I started out. The Silver Tempest was around the corner, so that three prize Crobat was coming.
Yeah.
But Meganium had a pretty interesting ability, the quick ripening herb ability, where you could just like skip a stage one evolution and just go straight from basic to stage two. And I was like, that card's super sick. So I found a YouTube video uh, about the Meganium deck, jumped into it. It was awful. It was straight up awful. I was not skilled enough to pilot that deck. Was not pulling dubs left or right. It was brutal, but it was still a fun time. And then we got going from there. The grass was like probably like my first six decks were just different iterations of grass deck, and then after that just branched out. I think I own like 20 decks now. It's addictive because their cards are so cheap. Like I think you
It's
can get a
it
deck for like $40.
And building it, man, is so fun. Like personally for me, it's therapeutic to build it.
Hmm.
Um, when I just picked my favorite Pokemon, like you said too. So mine's Squirtle.
Hmm.
I think we got the same Squirtle actually. He's right there in the background.
Whoop, whoop.
But when I was playing standard, that's what I wanted to play like a Blasters or Squirtle deck, and there was nothing. And so like how you mentioned, it's that charm of GLC. So I found a Squirtle. There's so many playable Blastoises, right? That whole Blastoise line. So
Hmm.
went straight into water, and then for me, I made my wife start playing because I didn't have a friend, man. Not all of us have friends, so I made her play. So I made her grass, and then I did water, and that's how we started playing. Right there, that's the decks we made.
Oh yeah, I remember like when you were starting off streaming, like that's how we kind of got to know each other. Was I saw that you were streaming GLC content, hopped into stream, you were having your wife battles. That was great.
It's so fun. We still do it. We've been so busy, but we're gonna get back to that soon. Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited to see more of you playing your wife. I've had a couple instances where I haven't had like a co-host lined up to help me stream on the nights that I stream GLC, and my wife has been like, "Do you need me to learn how to play?" And I'm like, "This is my thing, babe. I'm not going to ask you to do it." I'm glad that your wife does it with you.
It's fun, man. It's fun. Now she really like before she didn't like she didn't know anything about Pokemon.
Mhm.
And then now she's like really like she has her binder she's collecting and she has like her little stuffed animals. It's fun, man. It's a good thing.
Yeah. I feel like, to be honest, when I look at people that play Gym Winter Challenge, it's not people that are super heavily invested in standard, which I wish that was the case. Like, I need more Pokemon players to come and hang out with me and play Pokemon. But what I'm getting a lot more of at my locals, at least, is like people that are disenfranchised with another TCG, or maybe they're like in between. Like, I got Keyforge players. I don't know if anyone knows what Keyforge is, but Keyforge is this weird game that kind of like came up, and then some technical issues happened where one of their employees deleted a whole entire algorithm so they couldn't make their cars anymore. So he literally
Wow.
couldn't play their game. So he hopped over. He's playing with us. We've got other people there from Magic, mostly Commander players. Commander is the singleton Magic format. So like those players are already feeling kind of that hype, and they jump on over to us. So I feel like again, my locals mostly not standard Pokemon players. I feel like every time I talk to a standard Pokemon player, they're just like, standard's pretty good right now. I just want to play standard. And like, I get that aspect, but Gym Winter Challenge is sweet. Like, I need people to
It's
give it
so
a try.
fun. It's so fun, man. When we went to our local shop, we met everyone there because we were trying to find cards for GLC. And I mentioned to him, so you guys know what GLC is? And so I was new to everything, right? So I just assumed everybody knew what Gym Leader Challenge was. And they're like, nah, never heard of it. So I was trying to explain to them and nobody seemed interested, man. It took a while. It took a while for us to get people to actually want to play.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. That's like kind of like the part of the whole point of what everything I've done in content creation has been, is like, hey, please check out Gym Winter Challenge. Like, this format's so cool. Like, please check it out. I need
I
more people to
promise.
play it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
the Pokemon Company International has done everything in their power to get rid of us. They've gotten rid of PTCGO. There's no way to play it online. They
Dude,
keep
I'm mad I missed that era. I did not get to play online.
Oh man, I had a small little snippet of the PTCGO. For those of you who don't know, that's the Pokemon Trading Card Online, and it's the previous client to what Live is today. And it was so sweet. Like, you could just queue into it. Weeder, who is the cardboard warrior CEO, basically created like a whole a queue, so you could jump into the queue, and then once you found an opponent, it would match you, and you guys could just jump into a game on PTCGO. It was just magical. I didn't know what I was missing till it was gone, and then now
Man,
it's
I'm
gone.
jealous. I'm
Yeah.
jealous, man. And you brought up Weeder and the Cardboard Warriors. I think that's a good segue into that next slide. You want to go there?
Yeah. So where do you find deck lists? So hey, you've picked your favorite Pokemon. You've picked what type you want to play. Where are you going to find kind of these proven decks? Because I always encourage new players when you're starting out, like, yes, you can be a deck builder. Yes, you can tweak things. But if you're brand new to a format, you have no idea what's really going on in there. Again, you could be a Pokemon veteran. You could be a standard all-star. You could be a Zul GG. And you're coming into Gym Leader Challenge. It's just a different monster. Like, I recommend to everyone just net deck, which I know net deck gets like a bad rep at times. Like, I'm not the biggest net decker myself either. It has a negative connotation with it, but just net deck your first deck. Like, it's proven, it's probably won something. It's probably good. Someone has played it and won with it. So you at least know that. So then that way you can kind of at least judge where your skill is at. Like, hey, if I'm not doing well with this water deck that won a 1K a couple weeks ago, maybe the problem's me, not the deck. Not saying that, not all decks, some decks have problems. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I like how you said that, right? There is that negative connotation about net decking. Dude, I'm the opposite. Net deck, bro. There's 15, what is it, 15 years of cards, right? For
mhm.
GLC available. That's a long time, dude. And there's people who've been playing for a long time. So they know they got ideas and lists, man. Learn from them. Take those lists, man. Take those lists. I be copying y'all all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still like, I've been I'm heavily invested in Gym Leader Challenge. Like I'm on the Discord every day. I am actively communicating with people. And someone posted a card the other day, and like people know me as kind of like I'm the dude who plays fighting. And someone posted a
That's what I
card
said. Yeah,
I'd never seen this card before. It was like a Team Magma ball or something like that, and it basically let you get a Team Magma Pokemon and a Fighting Energy. And Fighting doesn't care about the Team Magma Pokemon, but having like a card you can search off a ball guy to get you an energy is just broken
that
in some
is that.
fighting
Dang, yeah,
decks.
that is because dude, fighting is like hurting for anything to search. So yeah, that's pretty good for that.
Yeah, so like again, I'd been fighting, I've been brewing, I'd written articles at this point about fighting decks, and this dude posted this card, and I was like, well, I ordered seven. I ordered seven immediately. I got on the Full Grip Games website. I ordered seven of these cards. I got them sitting right here. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I'm definitely going to at least play one. But
And
that's the thing. Net deck. Net deck is cool, especially when you're starting out. Again, brewing, like you mentioned before, part of the fun of this is like once you get familiar with the decks, once you get familiar with the types, you can get into brewing decks, you can get into tweaking decks, you can get into kind of like what cards are kind of your pet cards, and you can play them and you can win with them. But definitely start by checking out some other lists first. And these are some of the great places. There's cardboardwarriors.com, which has a sweet deck builder. It's the only GLC dedicated deck builder out on the web, and it has all GLC legal cards. You don't have to worry about searching legality. It's already there. Every card that's on that website, you can just put in your GLC deck and play. Besides that, like user decks are up. You can kind of scroll through what other people are playing. There are featured decks. Like the website is insane. It's like the best place to go and
it's
check
really
out
good.
GLC
Shout
tailored
out to Weeder
content.
for that, man. Yeah,
Oh yeah, 100%. Shout out to Weeder. Boop, boop. Uh, and then the second place, and maybe the first place that you might check is Tricky Jim's website, the gymleaderchallenge.com website. They have some good lists too that are specifically tailored for people that are looking to start out. They're like, hey, here's a generic hydro pump list, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in this podcast. He's got kind of those beginner lists. And then some of those lists are just like some of the guys that play with Mahone at his locals have done pretty well, and they put their list up there. But some of those lists I'm not a super big fan of, but they're pretty fun. So it's a cool place to check out. Gymleaderchallenge.com again. The two other places, which is kind of where we met, the CBW, that's the Cardboard Warriors, and the Tricky Gym Discords. That's basically where all Gym Leader Challenge discussion takes place. They've got deck list tabs left and right. People are always posting deck list ideas. When a new card comes out, someone posts the spoiler, and people are like, "Oh, this is the idea. Play it with this card. Do this." That's where decks are born. Really, are those two discords. And then the
right
last
there.
place
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, the last place really is the play.limitless TCG website. There's a couple of tournaments that are run, some locals, mostly the online tournaments run through the CBW Discord. You'll find kind of winning deck list. Again, take all winning deck lists with a grain of salt. They might have won a tournament here and there. Look for decks that have had constant results. Every now and then, like, not gonna diss too much, but there's a bird specific deck. Like, so it wasn't even colorless. It was colorless birds. Like, he was only playing bird Pokemon in his deck, and it got second place. Like, kudos to him. He's worked really hard on this deck. It's a good deck. It's a cool deck. But that deck in the hand of a new pilot might not perform as well. So I'm looking for a deck, if it's my first deck, something that's won a lot, something that's consistently got results. Because when I'm playing this format, I don't want to be losing. I'll tell you that. I'm competitive. I want to be winning, even
Same,
if
bro.
it's
Same.
even if it's fun. So give me that fun list.
All I was gonna say for y'all who are thinking of, there's a lot of us probably who are already into the GLC, right? But if you're
Mhm.
new and thinking about trying it and are nervous, the people in the Discord, man, are so friendly. The community is so nice. Me, if I have questions or if I have a deck that sucks, I'll just post a list and be like, "Hey guys, any ideas?" And you'll be surprised at how many people will spend the time and talk to you about it, give you ideas, say, "Hey, try this instead of that." So I mean, the resources in the community is there to help you out for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. The people are great. Every now and then you'll get a Debbie Downer. Like I can even be Debbie Downer. Like, oh, that idea is really cool, but is it consistent, guys? Like I can be that guy sometimes. But the community's great. So check them out if you haven't already. Hopefully if there's one good thing that comes from this podcast. It's hopefully that more people just get involved in the online discussion because I'm craving. I need that new blood. I need those new guys in there. We got
You
kind
just
of
want to
this.
beat people. You're just trying to beat people.
I don't even play competitively that much, but yes, I will beat you.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, real quick. I think it's funny too. I played Jeff twice, right? Lost twice. One time I was playing Jeff and I was up. I was up pretty big. I think I had like two prize cards to go, right? And Jeff came back with a sick three play. He knocked out three of my Pokemon, and he's just like, Basket, I don't know if anyone's told you, but I'm pretty good at this. It's like, yeah, man, you're pretty freaking good. Like,
Yeah,
so you'll get you.
I'm okay. I'm going to say I'm okay. Uh, I've won some things here and there. I enjoy playing my decks, but
It's fun.
they're definitely that's the great thing about the online scene right now is you get to play against a lot of people and it's newer players, it's more skilled players. Like I remember getting just straight crushed by people when I first started playing. And like that can be a little defeating at first if you just keep losing over and over and over again. You start to question like, am I any good at this? And then like once you start like competing with them regularly and you're like, wow, like I can compete with these players who've been playing a long time. It starts to feel really good, and you're like, cool, sweet, gym leader challenges for me.
It's
Then
fun.
I streamed a lot with Weeder. Again, we're going to keep talking about Weeder, the Cardboard Warrior King. He and I stream every Thursday now. We used to do Mondays, but I remember like streaming against him for the first couple times and just like feeling like this is the big leagues, man. Because my first
He'll get
Lightning list that I net decked was his list. Like when you meet the people that you've gotten their deck list from, you're like, wow, this is it.
you. Man. All
Oh
right, so we got here picking a
yeah,
deck, right? All right,
picking a
let's see.
deck. Yeah, let's jump into it. So hey, you picked your type. You know where to look for decks at. Well, hey, beginners. There's some good types for beginners, and we went back to this a little bit. Gym Leader Challenge isn't necessarily a super balanced format. Pokemon Company International can't print cards for this format. Like it doesn't exist in their world as an official format. So they're not printing cards for it. They're printing cards for the standard format. So they're not printing cards with the idea of like, let's make fighting have this certain thing so that it can compete with what these other decks are doing. It's not doing that. Like that doesn't exist in Gym Leader Challenge. And there are a couple types that just feel a little bit more powerful and a little bit more consistent. And so when I tell people like, hey, when you're starting out, maybe pick one of these cards and types that are just sort of like a little bit more consistent because you're going to get to be able to play the game a little bit more often with these decks. You're going to be able to draw more cards. You're going to feel more competitive. You're going to have more outs. So picking up one of these decks, and the 5 decks I have here that I think are great for beginners are Lightning, Grass, Water, Colorless, and Psychic. And out of all of those, I think that the easiest deck for someone just to pick up is Grass. It's pretty linear. And then the next best type, I think, is Water, which I think is perfect because most people started playing the video games. You had your choice between 3 types of Pokemon: Water, Grass, and Fighting, or not Fighting, Fire. So you'll see Fire is not up here. It's actually on the other side. But, having Grass and Water be a starting type for new players is great. I love that just kind of worked out in Gym Leader Challenge.
Yeah, yeah, and I really it is like Jeff says, those especially Grass and Water, they have so many supporters, right? That just make it easier for people to learn how to play the game. I think Water, dude, has some of it's a low ceiling. No, 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 no. It's a what's the saying? It's a low entry level but a high ceiling. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you're saying like there's a low floor. Like it's
Low
always gonna
floor.
be it's always gonna be here. Like it's always gonna be like pretty consistently good. And then once you pick up like, hey, I gotta play this line or I've got to do this specific thing or like this synergizes with that. Like once you start picking up the more complicated lines, like the deck is just like top tier. So like you're gonna be pretty mid if you're just learning it, but the second that you figure out some of those more intricate plays and lines, like whoosh, just such good decks. So
Yeah,
they're good
yeah.
decks to begin with, and then they're good decks to keep playing, which is why people keep recommending them to beginners. Water and Grass. We got to go to
That's right.
the other side, the sad side, Basquid, and this makes me really sad because I just mentioned I was a fighting guy. So decks that are bad for beginners. Uh, fighting. Fighting is probably one of the decks that I cannot recommend to any beginner out of the gate. Like it is great. I love that deck. It is my go-to type. If I'm trying to have fun, I'm picking up a fighting deck. But man, that deck cannot draw cards to save its life. Like you are not finding what you need to at the times that you need to unless you like have planned 6 or 7 turns in advance, and even then your opponent just plays a Marnie and you're doomed.
Exactly, bro. Is there any I can't even think, is there any Pokemon that draws cards for fighting?
All right, so
0, right?
again, I've looked through most of them, and there is one Lucario. And Lucario, once you evolve Lucario, so it's on evolution, you can draw 2 cards.
That's it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Uh,
that's terrible.
yeah. But and the problem there is like, hey, some decks might actually really want that Lucario. But the problem is there's like 3 or 4 Lucarios that are just so much better. Like there's a Lucario that if your fighting Pokemon was knocked out, does like 150 damage for 1 energy. Like, yeah, I'm playing that one.
Yeah, yeah, for
Sorry.
1 energy, yeah, man, and that's the thing, right, with this, since you can only pick 1 card, there's some of these cards have, like, really good versions, right? I think
Oh
there's,
yeah.
like, 2 good Machamps too, right, or
Yeah,
Machokes?
yeah, Machamp. There's a couple different Machamps that are pretty good. I think most people try to play the Crisis Muscle Machamp, but yeah, there's like one of the things that Pokemon has done for years is like the same card keeps getting amazing printings.
Yeah.
Blastoise is a card to think about. We talked about, there's the Deluge Blastoise, which is basically a rain dancer, which we'll talk about later. And there's Vitality Spring Blastoise. Like both are very good card. Jirachi has a couple of great printings that could be used in different ways. Bronzong keeps getting good printings. Like,
Bronzong just stays getting good printings, yeah.
oh yeah. So like, come on, Pokemon Company International, diversify what you're printing. Think about the Gym Leader Challenge.
So, I think right, fighting's just one good support Pokemon away. I can't really put my finger on what it is about fire, right? Because fire, when you look at it, there's stuff there, but I can't exactly tell what it is that's making the deck so hard to play.
Yeah, so fire is another one that I'm not going to recommend to beginners for a number of reasons. Number one, fire has a like solid support Pokemon. Like it
Right?
has a Macargo that searches up any card and puts it on top of your deck. And I think that's one of the parts that's difficult for beginners is like what card when you can pick any card from your deck per turn, what's the card that's going to be impactful? So I think that plays a little bit into why fire might be bad for beginners. But man, fire's attackers are real bad. Fire does not have a lot of good basic attackers. Like before Entei got printed in Obsidian Flames, there were like basically no real good basic attackers. And like even the good basic attackers, I'm going to say good, I'm putting up air quotes here, like Heatmore still requires 6 energy to be good.
Mm,
like,
mm.
like there's that's the problem with fire. Like it needs some better attackers. It needs some more efficient attackers, and it needs to be a little less reliant on its support because it's so reliant on Charizard, so reliant on that Macargo, and then oftentimes it's reliant on its draw engines too. And when your bench is mostly full of support Pokemon, one Parallel City is dooming you. You are doomed if
That
that if you're playing
that's
fire.
it, yeah, the attacks, okay, okay, you put it for me, right? I couldn't think of what was the problem with it. You can't attack. Yeah, yeah, okay, it makes sense, makes sense.
Mhm. And we'll talk again. We're going to be doing some type specific content later on, so I can't stop myself from talking about Gym Leader Challenge, as you guys can tell. So we'll save that all that stuff for later on. But the last type we got to talk about, one of my favorite things about like Pokemon, like the trading card game Pokemon in general, is that fairy type existed for like 30 seconds. And so another deck that like I can't ever recommend to anyone is Fairy. Just like it only had like I don't even know what it was like a full set of printings, like Sword and Shield. Basically, Fairy type existed, and then once they moved on to the next set, it was just like nope. We're no longer printing fairy Pokemon. They are now psychic type instead. So you just don't have any cards in your fairy card pool, and you're never getting any new ones. Just too underpowered. And that brings us to, I think, the next slide. Very disclaimer for everyone. Do not, do not play fairy unless you love the type. Don't invest in the cards. Don't get an emotional connection to them. They will not be back.
Unless you're trying to prove a point, right? You're trying to prove a point, go for it, but yeah, fairy,
Yeah. Yeah. If you
not really.
really want to flex on someone in the Gym Leader Challenge format, win a game with Fairy. And there's a reasonable Fairy deck. Shout out to my boy Watto, who came up with a Turbo Fairy list that performed well in his specific hands. But don't play
You know,
Fairy.
I think he beat me online, and I was tricked into thinking that Fairy was good. I didn't, because like I said, I'm new. He whooped me, dude, and I was like, "Man, Fairy must be busted." Nope, there's Fairy's nothing.
Fairy is not busted. Let it be known. But this is again the funny thing about this is like it's still legal. Like you can still play Fairy in Gym Leader Challenge format. Like if you're playing casually with your friends and you want to play Fairy, 100% do it. If you're playing in a tournament and you just want to again, like I said, flex on them, play this. The issue just really is, like I said, there's not a big card pool. The attacks don't do enough to keep up with the bigger things in the format, but it's fun. You can do it. Like I've played it before. I've had a good time with it. Mahone has like secretly like talked about like getting rid of Fairy. Like it's no longer on the website. Like you can't really look at Fairy. Like it's just kind of like this hush hush secret of GLC. Like you can do it, but don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on. Speaking about things that like just don't happen in GLC, Fairy being one of them. Eevee. Hey, people love Eevee. Eevee is one of everyone's favorite Pokemon. Like everyone has their favorite evolution. Eevee is a fun Pokemon to have in the video game and in the trading card game. The issue with Eevee is that Eevee is a normal type Pokemon, and every single one of Eevee's evolutions is a different type of Pokemon. And if you recall back to what we said earlier, this is a monotype format. Your deck is fighting, your deck is fire. You can't play two types. So you can't actually play Eevee and its evolution in the same deck. And it just kills people, that squid. People just hate it. And it's just the rules. Like,
I've seen people like say this is the reason why they won't play because they can't have their Eevee. People love Eevee, man, apparently. So yeah,
I mean, what's not to love? I mean, you got Umbreon. Umbreon is just a wonderful Pokemon. Umbreon, Espeon, those are my Gen 2 evolutions. Love them to death. Eevee's a big part of the Pokemon game. It's been around.
yeah.
There's been a new evolution almost in every type, but it's not just Eevee that like can't be played either. There's like a Steelix that's Steel type, but Onyx is only Rock type, which gets classified as fighting. So you can't play some of the Steelixes because of that reason. You can't have Onyx. Sizor is a Metal type.
I was about to say that. Yeah, yeah.
Scyther is
Scyther.
Bug. So there's a couple different Pokemon that you just can't play. There are ways to kind of like cheat Pokemon into play. Like one of them is Dream Ball. Dream Ball says if you take it off of your prizes, you can pick any Pokemon in your deck and just put it into play. So like if you luck into getting your Dream Ball off of your prizes, which there are things you can do to set that up. It's just like jumping through hoops though. So if you can play it, you can play evolutions, but you just can't play them with Eevee, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
good if you play them. There's not really a fix. Back to what we said earlier, Mr. Mahone, he's in charge of the format. He is thinking like, hey, I want to keep the rules simple. We're not going to have two types. If they ever print like a Delta species Eevee, like that's what people keep hoping for, is they want a terrestrialized Eevee in each type so you can play it in your different decks, which again, if Pokemon Company International is listening, do that. Get these
If they ever
Eevee.
did that, you know that they're rooting for Gym Leader Challenge at that point, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And if Delta species ever come back, which I think Delta species had like weird mutations into different types, I think there's like a Fire Kingler that I have a card of somewhere around here. They might make a Delta Eevee that's different types. So until then, sadly, we cannot play Eevee in our non-normal type decks. So sad, but hey, it's the rules, and there's still a lot of interesting gameplay besides that. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, where to play? Hey, we talked about earlier, Pokemon TCGO, it's gone. The online client where you could play this is gone. So we had to find a different way to play. And these are kind of the ways that I think that you should play it, that you can play it. We're just going to go through the list and we're going to talk about like our experience playing it too. So like, hey, play with your friends. That's how I started. Just, joining with a couple buddies here and there, playing with them, figuring out the format, net decking some decks, finding out what worked, what didn't work. When you're playing against someone who's also new, it's great for you guys to like learn together. That way, someone's not like too much better than you either. So with the buds, it's great, or best with the wife.
Yeah, yeah. That's how we started playing here. It's fun, man. It's super fun. We had just like a bunch of random cards around the house. I think I
Mhm.
told you this too, right? We had just a bunch of random cards around the house. So we were playing suboptimal decks, but with each other, and it was easier to, it was fun to learn. One deck wasn't too strong where the other one was just getting sweep. So we had a lot of games where we were just learning how to play and how to work through the prizing of bad cards and dead hands. So that's fun.
Yeah. Again, like if you're playing with like two decks of similar power levels and two players with similar knowledge, like all of that's super fun and dandy. Like love, love, love that. I know there are a couple people that I've talked to that have been like, Gym Leader Challenge is all luck. Like the game is 100% luck, and like, it's just like hard to explain to them. Like you have to kind of like number one, build your deck with the singleton factor in mind. Like you have to make sure that your deck is consistent because you're not playing four copies of one card. You're trying to play four copies of a card that does similar things. So like instead of playing like, I don't even know what the setup card in standard is right now. Probably, Arvin Buddy Poffin. So you can't play four copies of Arvin or four copies of Buddy Poffin in GLC, but you can play Arvin, Sonia, Bridget, Gloria, and that's basically four cards that do the same thing. Like when you're building your GLC deck, you're keeping that same four card consistency in mind a lot of the times, but you're just shifting it to other printings that might more or less do the same thing. You're going to have to sacrifice a bit just because of the singleton nature. But
Yeah.
again, yeah,
Yeah,
decks of similar power, fun to do.
I would say it's completely opposite from being like I think like I play standard red. I think it takes way more skill to
Mm.
play GLC, right? Because you got to have the skill in deck building, knowing your cards. But you have to know what every single card's in there. You have to be able to price check, and you have to learn how to like find different ways to win, right? Because you might not always have access to the. So I feel like it's always the better player will win like 90% of the time in GLC.
Yeah, I would agree with that mostly, and I think that that's a hard point to get across unless you've played a lot of GLC.
Yeah.
Once you play a lot of GLC, you start to realize like, oh wow, there's a lot of plays that I need to do, a lot of deck building that goes into this to keep my decks consistent. Locals. If you don't have a locals, I didn't have a locals. I had to make my own locals. That's one of the things, like again, I started content creating to kind of build a community. So like once we got enough people, we started just hanging out together, playing at like a local brewery. We still play a local brewery.
Dude, that sounds so fun.
Dude, it is awesome. There's like last week, or we play once a month because it's just we're older dudes with busy lives.
Everyone's
So
busy. Yeah.
yeah, so we play once a month, and we get like 10 or 12 people at this brewery. And like, I don't drink, but they get a beer. They're hanging out. We're playing Pokemon. It's not sanctioned. We have a judge show up sometimes. I'm the closest thing to a judge. Or if I don't know what's going on, I just shoot a message to one of the Discords like, hey guys, how do these two cards interact? Take a picture, send it. You know,
What
got
did
my
they
virtual
say at the
judges.
brewery? They say anything to y'all, or they just
Oh, I think they love
chill
it. I
about it?
think they secretly. I
Really?
can't tell you how many people walk up to us and they're like, "Oh, dude, what are you guys doing? Are you guys playing Pokemon?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we're playing
That's
Pokemon."
sick. Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, and it's a family brewery. Like it's a brewery at a historic hangar, like an airplane hangar. So
Yeah.
like families are there all the time. Like there are kids hanging out. There will be like a 12-year-old walking up to you, and his dad will be sipping on a beer, and the 12-year-old will be like, "Oh my god, that's a Charizard!" And you're like, "Yeah, that's a Charizard, man."
Yeah, that sounds fun. That's I didn't know you did that. That sounds cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. It's super great. So if you don't have a locals, make it. That's kind of the thing. Is like Gym Leader Challenge is growing. If you have a local game store that isn't doing an event, just talk to the owners. I'm sure that there's a way for you to get it. Just get some buddies, convince those standard players. If you can't get those standard players to play with you, find some salty magic players. Salty magic players will play GLC with you, I promise.
Yeah, man. Apparently here, so we didn't have it. Like I said, when we went to the shop, nobody was really into it. No one knew about it. Not much interest. And but apparently one of the guys tried to do GLC like back when it was starting,
Mhm.
and only two people showed up. So just ever since then, they kind of swept it under the rug, forgot all about it. And then me and my wife, keep bugging, hey man, let's do. I promise you, it's fun. Let's just do it. Let's do it. And finally, the shop owner, said, hey, if we get some people up here that we'll do a league. And that first day we had like seven of us up there, and from there we've had pretty good. We haven't had under four, right? Because you have to have at least four. So we've had four up to eight, and more people are showing interest. This last like 2 weeks ago, I built a board. I made it like out of wood, so
Mhm.
we could put like the stickers up on there, right? Because I felt like if people see like there's a goal that you're working towards, they'll take interest in it. And now more people are like, I want to make a list. I want to try to get some badges. So I think that's real fun, man. So yeah, we finally got a league going on over here in my area.
Nice. Yeah, and that's a good point to make too. Is like, we do badges at our league too, and there's this badge system that's been going around. Again, I think Full Grip Games, where Andrew Mahone plays, kind of made this badge thing and shared it with the world, and a lot of local game shops are following suit. Basically, it's just, for each time a trainer wins league with a certain type, they just get a sticker on a player card, and the player card includes like a picture of the player, maybe a quote from them. They get a type sticker up there, and then once they get all 10 types, I guess they're like the champion of the league. Is that how you guys do it too?
Yeah, yeah, it says how we're doing it too. So right now, 5 of us have badges. I just have the medal.
Mhm.
I think Josh is in the lead. He has lightning and colorless. Chandler has colorless. Chaz has psychic, and then Travis has grass in our
Mhm.
league.
Makes me sad that there's no fighting, but understandable.
Well, like you was saying, so Chaz has been trying the past 2 weeks to get his fighting, but he's just every time I played him, he's bricked. He has not been able to get set up or get supporters out, and so it's just that fighting curse, man. So I mean, they're trying though. They're trying.
Oh yeah. Our local does. I want to say something similar, but we do have a badge system in place. There was like so few of us at the beginning. There was like we were getting 6, maybe 7 when we first started out. That we decided to do like season long badges. So you play like 4 or 5 events. Again, we do our events monthly. So after like the 5th event, the season would end, and then whoever had the most wins with a type would get basically a bottle cap with a sticker on it that I had like sprayed some gloss over and attached to a keychain. So like people were super hyped for it though. Like just some bottle caps with a sticker. They're like, yeah, give it to me. They got on their keychain. They bring it. It looks super sick. And one of the best parts about it is like, psychic and colorless are like 2 of the better types. So like those are going to be types that are very competitive when it comes to badges. Like I think each season that we've had, we're now on season 3 of our locals. Like psychic has had 2 players like going into the last day, like one with 6 wins, one with 5 wins, trying to get it. And it also kind of helps diversify, because if someone shows up week 3 and other people have already been playing psychic and they see that they can't really get the psychic badge, they might switch to something else. And so it helps keep kind of like our local meta super diverse. So you're going to see almost like one of every type almost every week. Just a fun time. Like that's
Yeah,
what I love
yeah, that
about our
sounds
badge
dope.
system.
That sounds dope.
Yeah, next couple things that we're going to talk about are regionals and championships are another place for you to play GLC. Like all of those big events are going to have like a side event GLC. Usually it's like a 3 or 4 round tournament. I think 3 rounds is the norm. You get play points or whatever the credits that they give out at those events are. And like I think I went to Charlotte on a Friday and like 50 people were playing. I think it might have actually been upwards of 60. And I think one of the largest events they had was like 300. So like there are people playing at
300.
regionals. Yeah, there was an event that had
Wow.
300 people playing Gym Leader Challenge.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's great. I was about to ask you about that. How did that tournament go? I know you said that you were gonna play in it, but
mhm.
I didn't get the update. So how did that one go?
Yeah. So the regionals was sweet. Like I took off from work because that's where my life is at. I had to take off from work to drive up on a Friday to go and play in this regionals. But it was just the Gym Leader Challenge side event. Like at 3 o'clock, you signed up for it. Like 60 people were playing. You play 3 rounds. That's what we played. You got like 100 points per win. And I went 2-1 with fighting. Lost my first match to grass. Did
Mm.
the my Hitmon bros were prized. Still made a valiant comeback, but I think my opponent played like Roxanne on like turn 2 or something. There's a card that like made me shuffle draw like 3 cards, and then they shuffle draw 6 cards. And if you ever disrupt fighting's hand in the early turns, you're doomed. So this
Wow.
grass player was playing that on turn 2 to me, and I was like, sad. Uh, but that's how it happened. And then I won my next 2 games. So I went 2-1. And then you could play 4-man pods too. So I was only there for Friday. So I tried to optimize the time that I was there. So after I played in that event, I immediately signed up for a 4-man pod. You just like grab a piece of paper from the desk, you write GLC at the top, you write your name. And then once 3 other people like join in with you, you guys just go to a little side area and the 4 of you play like round robin against each other, and there's like a judge that just like sits there and stares at you awkwardly while you guys are all 4 of you are playing. And then every time you win, he's like, here's some points, bruh. Here's some points. It was really awkward, but I ended up playing Lightning Zone, which is a sweet lightning list. And I ended up going 2-1 in that one too. I think I lost like Guzzlord.
The regional scene to go play some side events is super fun, man. If you guys could do that,
Oh
recommend
yeah.
it.
100%. And the great thing too is like even if you don't go to these, if you're a member of one of those discords we mentioned earlier, the Tricky Gyms and the Cardboard Warriors, you get updates and like people are always posting their list, being like, "Yeah, I went 3-0 with Colorless. This is my list. It's the best." And you just get like so many of the best lists from the weekend are posted. We never get any official results. Like unfortunately, like there's no official Gym Leader Challenge events that are going on that keep track of deck lists. Like there's the online tournaments, but beyond that, like you just don't really get gym leader challenge lists besides what you can see on those websites we brought up earlier, or if someone's making like YouTube content, like finding a gym leader challenge list can be challenging. So especially one that's competitive and that's won.
Yeah, yeah, and you segue perfectly too into that next place where to play those webcams.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so the next best place to play, hey, you don't have a lot of buddies to play with. You're itching to play in your locals. Oh, it's only monthly, or you're itching to play and once a week isn't enough. Well, hey, you can't play on an online client, but I think the best way to play beyond that is webcam. So, there's a lot of different setups that you guys can do. I'll let you guys look at a different video to get your webcam setups. I'm not going to tell you how to do it on Spotify or whatever the heck this is going to end up on. But, get your webcam set up. Basically, you play through Discord. You show your camera, they show their camera. You play. Hopefully, nothing fishy happens. The thing that people always talk about is like, I can't see their screen, or I can't see what they're doing with their hands. Like, it's just a casual game of GLC. It's not that big of a deal. So, when
Yeah,
you're playing webcam tournaments or webcam the like, none of that stuff really comes up too much. And it's a good time. You get to see like a lot of different unique decks, rogue decks, meta decks. You get to meet interesting people. That's how we met. A lot of the other people that I play with and talk to GLC about. This is how we met, was playing over it. You get that in-person interaction with people across the country. I get to play with Andre Costella, who's in Portugal. Like he and I streamed a match the other day. Like I'm playing with people all over the world. I've played games in Spanish before.
yeah,
Like that's what webcam gives me. It's great. So check out webcam if you're itching to play outside of your locals and outside of in-person. Webcam is the way, in my opinion.
agreed, agreed.
Yeah. And there's also tabletop sims, which require a lot of clicking. They're fine. Like I like tabletop sims. They're good for testing, but you can check out a couple of different websites to play. It's not quite PTCGO, but it's got some of the same facet. Like it shuffles for you if you click the S button. But there's some tabletop sims that you can try out there, and there are people in the discords that are looking to play those too. It's kind of break time. And by that, I mean, we get to stop talking about new gym leader challenge stuff and we get to talk about our deck of the week. Have you seen the deck of the week yet,
I was looking
Espa?
at it. I was looking at it. So go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I think every week on Twitter, I'm going to post. Maybe I'll have Bat Squid post too. He's got more of a Twitter following than I do. But we'll post up like, hey, show us a deck. Show us the deck of the league. And this was our first submission is we've got Don't Doubt the Boar by Lucaring, who's a Cardboard Warriors writer. But he showed up, he gave us this fire list. And this fire list is straight fire. What are your thoughts on it? I'm going to let you, since you're not a fire guy, what did you see when you looked at this list?
So I was actually interested because I've never seen this Embor before. So
Mm-hmm.
hold on. So as often as you like in your turn, you may attach a fire energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. Okay, so he's more of a support. Let's see here. What's he attacking with? The Entei, there's the Heatmore.
I'll wait till you find it. Those of you who are at home, there is like one card in this list that's just kind of like the whole reason why this deck exists.
Hold on. Let me look. Let me look. Is it the bird?
It's the bird. It's the bird. So this is playing the top burner Moltres. And for those of you who don't know, the top burner Moltres says for each fire energy attached, you discard it and you get to mill a card of your opponent. So this deck is super sweet because it's playing that Moltres, which is pretty easy to recover since it's a basic. And then you're playing Imbor. Again, the name of the deck is Don't Doubt the Boar. So Imbor is a rain dancer. You can attach fire energy as much as you want to your Pokemon. And then you have Charizard, which is
Whoa.
the Burn Brightly Charizard that doubles up energy. So if you get these
Bro.
two super powerful stage twos into play, and then you get your Moltres going, you can attach a ton of energy to this Moltres and then just burn through your opponent's deck. Pun
Bro, I'm
intended.
I'm just realizing it's a mail deck. Wow. Okay, yeah, that's crazy. That is
Yeah.
crazy. I
Yeah.
didn't realize what I was looking at till you said it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This deck is sweet. And like, Again, I'm going back to like base set 1999. There used to be a Moltres stall deck that also had a mill plan, and there was a Moltres that did something very similar to this. So this deck holds a place in my heart. I'll never play it at my locals because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But
It's this toxic dick.
it's a pretty toxic deck, but it definitely deserved uh, deck of the week contention here. So if we threw it up
Yeah.
here, you know, Fire also has a whole bunch of like attach from discard or get energy back from discard type specific cards. So like Fire Crystal gets 3 energy back to your hand. Giant Hearth lets you discard and go search energy from your deck. Magma Basin attaches an energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon and puts damage counters. Then you have Welder and Blacksmith, which one attaches energy from your hand, one attaches energy from your discard pile. So, like outside of Charizard and Imbor, you just have a ton of different ways to attach energy to your Moltres and then to get milling. And then this
Dude.
deck is even more in on like these stage twos because it's playing Torchic, which I don't know if you looked at the Torchic yet, but the
No, no.
Torchic has the Barrage Delta trait, which lets it attack twice. So you attach TM Evolution to it, and if you get, you know, your Buddy Poffin on turn one, like you draw an Arvin, you play Arvin, you can get Buddy Poffin, and you can get this TM Evolution. You can evolve your Charmander, and you can evolve your Tepig all the way up to their stage twos on the first turn of the game. So,
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. I was looking at this. I didn't really see it, right? I thought you're talking about like that 180 attack on the Moltres. I was like, yeah, I guess that's okay. But I didn't
no,
realize exactly what this is. I'm gonna build this. This is crazy.
oh yeah, yeah. Your locals will not appreciate it, but I will. Just know that.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. So sweet deck. So deck of the week, shout out. Don't doubt the boar from Lucarine. Huge, huge, huge fan of this deck. Gonna have it built, but we'll never play it.
That's crazy.
Cool. Well, hey, time to get to our second segment here. So, hey, we're going to talk about like the 2 beginning decks that I would recommend to new players. And those decks are grass and water. So, we're going to kind of talk through like some of the common lines, some of the combos you'll see in these decks, some of the important Pokemon, like maybe some of the pricier cards too, and what you can do if you're not looking to spend that price point, and just kind of talk you through like, hey, this should probably be your first GLC deck, and here are some cards that you should probably consider buying if you're looking to do that. So let's get to it. Grass. Bestwood, you a grass player yourself?
I'm not, but like I said, I built it for my wife, so she's more the grass player. But she has, seeing her play it and building it for her, I got a pretty good idea about it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so grass is kind of known for like searching up Pokemon and evolving. Like those are the 2 characteristics when I think of grass. That's what grass does. Search and evolve. And that's kind of what the Pokemon Company has done for a long time. Is this is what grass does. It's best at evolving. It's got powerful stage twos, and they've kind of kept it that way for forever. Here are kind of the key pieces to searching out Pokemon in your deck. We have the Grottle here, who with the Sun's Drenched Shell ability, which searches up any grass Pokemon and puts it into your hand. There's a Grovyle that does the exact same thing. Both of these are stage ones and evolve into pretty useful stage twos. And then you have Turffield Stadium here, which is one of the best grass specific stadiums that you can play. Basically, search up any grass evolution Pokemon. Hey, grass has all the search, and these are 3 of the pieces that you're going to need for it. On top of that, energy acceleration. You know, hey, you've evolved your Pokemon. What do you do with them? Grass has some of the best energy acceleration in the game. Venusaur doubles up your energy, kind of what that Charizard was doing in our deck of the week. Then you got Rillaboom that searches up 2 grass energy from the deck and attaches them. So if you have Venusaur and Rillaboom up, you're effectively getting 4 energy per turn. And then you have what many people consider kind of like baby Venusaur and baby Rillaboom, which is these 2 stage ones over here, Cherim and Eldegoss. So Cherim lets you attach energy from your hand to your Pokemon that don't have a rules box, and Eldegoss lets you search up 2 basic energy. So these are kind of 2 stage ones that can do similar things to Venusaur and Rillaboom, but they're a little bit easier to get out. So
Hmm.
you'll see some decks play those. As far as the best attackers, Torterra, and like that Grottle is the best searcher, and it evolves into the best grass attacker.
Yeah.
Torterra for grass and colorless energy does 50 times the amount of evolution Pokemon you have in play. So you got all 6 evolved Pokemon, which grass can do, you're hitting for 300 damage for 2 energy, which knocks out everything in the format. Even
Yep.
if you only have 5 evolved Pokemon, that's still 250. This Torterra is a beast. So definitely like the best grass card, I think, hands down, or at least the best grass evolution line.
Yeah, yeah, that one's good. These other ones I'm not too familiar with, like the shiny Genesect.
Yeah, so the grass lists mostly, and we'll talk about this specific list coming up here, but they're lists that play Rillaboom and Venusaur. And so
Mhm.
since your support Pokemon are stage twos, you kind of want to lean on some easily recurable basics to kind of keep the attacks going. So Shining Genesect and Zarude are both very similar Pokemon. They're basics with hydro pump style attacks, which basically state like, hey, it does this amount of damage plus this much more for each of this specific type energy attached.
Yeah, yeah, I see
So
that. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So Gaia Blaster from Shining Genesect does 50 plus 20 more for each energy. So if you attach 2 energy with Rillaboom and then Venusaur is doubling that, that's 4 energy. So you're doing 80 plus 50. You're doing 130 in one turn with Shining Genesect. Then
Yeah, that's
Zarude
great.
has a little bit better rate here. It's 60 plus 20, so it's effectively 10 more damage. But Zarude has a busted first ability. Pack Call, which is its first attack. If you go second, you can search up any 3 grass Pokemon and put them into your hand. So like
Oh,
it's
it's 3. Oh,
yeah.
wow,
If you
yeah,
go
it is
if
busted.
yeah, during your first turn if you're going second. Like
Yeah, that's pretty
besides that
good.
it's 1. So it's still like the best starter that grass has, but Zarude busted. So one of the best attackers, one of the best starters. So when you have a card that
Yeah.
can be flexible like that, it's super great. Have you seen the Skip Plume and the Jump Bluff before?
I know I've got my butt whooped by that line before. So I've seen it once or twice.
Yeah, so Jump Bluff in the video game is super unimpressive Pokemon, like bottom of the barrel type grass Pokemon. But in the TCG, it's kind of funny because it has some like certain characteristics that are kind of, I don't know, consistent across different Jump Bluff printings. But basically, you have like free retreat, which is something that's great in this line, having like a pivot to get you back and forth. Then the Skip Bloom can immediately evolve into the jump bluff. So whenever you attach an energy from your hand to Skip Bloom, you can go and evolve it. So on your second turn of the game, you can evolve into Skip Bloom, attach an energy, and then you can go right into jump bluff. And the jump bluff here is the rapid strike jump bluff with the fluffy barrage ability, which basically says you can attack twice each turn. So its attack does 60 damage for 1 energy, and so you're doing 120. But like
Mhm.
you attach damage mods or you attach certain tools to this, and all of a sudden this jump bluff is hitting 160. And if you can do this on the second turn of the game, which happens more often than you think, like even if your opponent has benched 2 things, you can still get the donk. You can take
Yeah.
both
It's
Pokemon
happened.
out.
It's
Yeah,
happened to me.
that's no,
It's
yes, that's
happened to
happened to
me.
me too. There's also a tool that you can attach to Jump Bluff. I can't remember what tool it is. It's one of the scrolls, but for 3 energy, I think it's a fighting and 2 colorless, you can do 30 damage to every single one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if you have that tool and you attach the rapid strike energy on turn 2, you can board wipe because you get to do 30 to everything one time, then you can do 30 to everything 2 times.
Yeah, it's nasty.
It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
got some nasty combos with jump bluff. So this attacking jump bluff, one of the more like, I don't want to say it's not in like the best grass deck, I would say, but it's definitely one of the ones that's like most tested. Like, can we figure out how this jump bluff is going to
There's a
like
lot, yeah, you can do a lot
do
with it.
some fun stuff? It's only got 90 HP, and that's the problem. So once it does its cool stuff, it is dead. Like you
Yeah.
were.
That's good, that's good.
And I think this is maybe the last bit that we're going to talk about grass before we get into grass specific decks. Like the best grass support card is Roserade. Grass doesn't really have much in the way of like draw support. It's got a stage 2 Beautifly that draws up to 6, and then it has a Saw's Buck that draws 1 card per turn. So it's like actual draw support Pokemon, not great. And you don't really want to waste bench space on that when you have so much more powerful things that you can be doing. So this Roserade, which is one of the more expensive cards in the deck, it's the Roserade with the Le Parfum ability. I think it's Dragon Exalted is the set it came out in. Basically, when you evolve it, you can go get any card in your deck, which is great for grass because sometimes it just needs 1 card to pop off. So this Roserade is like the key consistency tool that you need to win games. Like this gets you your rare candy for those busted rare candy plays. It gets you Turf Field if you need another Pokemon search. It can get you a draw supporter, Roserade. This is the card.
Yeah, that's the card that my wife's deck is missing. Roserade is what she needs in there to take it to that next level for sure.
Oh yeah. And now the problem with Roserade is this. At one point it was $40.
It's
And
expensive, dude. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so it's a nothing card. Like it used to literally be like in penny, like whatever the penny like pick through bins were and stuff like that. Like no one cared about this card. All of a sudden, Gym Leader Challenge became a thing and people realized how busted this card was. But apparently no one kept their Roserades. Like people were just like throwing them away or they were hidden in bulk piles and no one was looking for them. So like the Roserade demand high, the Roserade supply low. So this card
Is that why?
jumped up in
Okay.
price. And so I think it's gone down a little bit. I think you could probably get one now for $20-$25. I think maybe even lower than that if you're looking for a deal. I know in other languages it's cheaper too. But yeah, this Roserade, super key to the deck, but it's expensive. So if you're
Mhm.
looking to start out and you don't want to invest that kind of capital in a deck like this, go with Arvin, go with Skyla, something different. Like they get trainer cards, they still let you pop off by getting you rare candy or getting you a stadium or something like that. Arvin and Skyla, I think, are two cards that you could play if you didn't want to play this Roserade, just because of price. Again, both Arvin and Skyla are like 25-cent cards versus like a $25 card. So again, keep the price low, especially if you're just starting out. Or proxy. Like most people just proxy cards,
Yeah.
especially if you're playing casually or webcam. Just print out a card, you'll be fine. Well, those are kind of the key cards in grass. Did I miss anything, Basco? Is there like a grass card that you love so much you want to talk about?
I think honestly for grass, Scovillain pops out, right? The one that with the one grass and the one fire, but that's really the only grass knowledge I have. I really like that Scovillain.
Oh yeah, yeah, the spicy peppers deck that's
That
playing
one,
some like
yeah.
fire synergies to do a little bit more damage. I think does it also get the fire typing, or is that a
That
different
that's
card
a,
then?
so there's two Scovillains. One that could be both fire and grass, which I guess could be useful, right? But I like
Hmm.
the one that hits harder if it has fire attached to it.
Okay, yeah. I think there's a video somewhere of that being played. I think on Mahone's stream, spicy pepper, which I think I found out. The deck got its name because Arvin in some other language is pepper or something like that. I think it's like
Is it?
maybe French or Portugal. Yeah, there's some sort of foreign language printing of Arvin that's pepper, and so spicy pepper's name came from that. So I need to find myself a pepper Arvin because that's like the best translation.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Well, all right. Let's get into some specific decks. Again, I feel like we've talked about most of them, so we'll keep this segment short. But like, there are basically two grass decks that I would tell people to play. Like two lists that I would say, hey, here's 60 cards, buy them, and you can play it right now. And the first grass list is Rillasaur Grass, which again is that Rillaboom and Venusaur that we talked about. Again, Rillaboom searches 2 energy from the deck and attaches them to your Pokemon. Venusaur doubles them up. You have Zarude and you have Shining Genesect as attackers. And then we talked about Torterra just being a beast. So this is a deck. It's super consistent. It's great at doing what it does. It's very linear. It has a couple of key decision points, but there aren't a lot of decisions that need to be made. Basically, once you have Rillaboom and Venusaur set up, you're kind of just cruising to
Hmm.
KOs. Um, it's weak to ability lock, like cards like Wobbuffet and Psychic and Galarian Wheezing and Dark. But beyond that, it's just like the list. This is the list. I'm like, hey, you're new to the format. Here you go. Play the 60 cards.
Yeah, yeah. This is the list we have the wife built up. Pretty
Yeah.
much the 60. Minus a
Mhm.
few, but yeah, this is a good one.
hmm And it's got some fun things. Like if you're looking for more of the intricate things that you can do, if you attach an energy to something that you don't want to attach to, Shining Genesect can like absorb that energy. Its ability lets it switch energy from one place to another. So it's pretty useful beyond that. You're playing Scoop Up Net. So when you play your Roserade down, you can scoop it back up, play Rosalia, and then next turn, hopefully go Roserade and go get another card. So you kind of have a built in like 2-for-1 system there with your Roserades. And then it's basically just full of draw support to get you to the important Pokemon. And once the board state is established, Grass is just like, come at me, bro. I'm just going to keep putting energy on things and punching you
Yep.
real hard in the face.
Yep. Tough to beat after that.
So that's the list. Again, hey, play this list if you're looking at getting Grass. Now, the next list that we're going to talk about is a list that people have stated as being the most successful deck in 2023. It's definitely a list. It has a ton of results, but I'm not sure if the results are like, hey, this deck is really good, or if it's just like people have really publicized this deck. Like the creator of this deck, Pellet, who I love Pellet to death. Pellet, if you're out there, love you, man. Um, he really, really, really loves this deck. And so every time someone wins with this deck, he like makes a banner for it and posts it. And he's like, people have won with this deck. And I'm like, dude, more power to you, man. This he has put a lot of work and effort into this deck. And it's a pretty sweet list. I think it's a little bit more challenging to play, but it's definitely probably somewhere up there in the better to play grass decks. And that deck is called Elusive Feather. Are you familiar with Elusive Feather, Bestwood?
I think I played, maybe it was Deadman who played this against me. I just
Mm,
I remember seeing this. I don't know if it's this exact 60, but that jump bluff, man. Every time I see that jump bluff,
yeah.
that's
So
what was getting me.
yeah, so Dead Maniac is another one who's been playing this list too. Pellet Dead Maniac. There's been
Yeah.
a couple of other people. I think there's like Danila who won a tournament with it recently. So it's got results outside of Pellet. Like it's seen a lot of action. It's gotten a lot of results, especially at local leagues. But it's like a lower to the ground grass deck that's like looking for only one or two attachments to Pokemon. It kind of caps out at a low damage output, which is kind of like its biggest weakness is it's only hitting 120 damage with a lot of the things like the Vespa Queen hits 120, the Mega hits 120, Beedrill hits 120, Jump Pluff hits 120. So there's all these Pokemon that hit just 120, and 120 is sometimes just not enough. And it's only really running Muscle Band as its damage enhancer. And so it needs a little bit of help outside of that to get KOs. Like it's going to need to boss up like a small support Pokemon, or it's going to have to hit basics kind of hard and fast before they evolve into their stronger stage one and stage twos. And it can just kind of cheese out wins because it's playing Lost City, which basically puts Pokemon in the Lost Zone if they would get KO'd. So Lost City is a big part of what this deck is doing. People are playing the Lurantis that does like it sits on your bench and it gives all your Pokemon 20 more damage just so they can get that extra damage marker in because again 120 just hasn't been enough in a lot of matchups. But this is it, Elusive Feather. Sweet deck. It's got the Beedrill here that's that if it's your last card in your hand, you put it down, you draw three. That's where the deck gets its name. I think
Mm,
Pellet really liked bug cards, which is why he went with this deck. It's got a lot of bugs in
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I see that. That's cool.
Well, all right. Besides that, hey, some other grass recommendations I got for you guys. Hey, tanky grass. You want big tanky guys with HP that you can heal and switch out and put tanky tools on, increase their HP. Tanky grass is the deck for you. There's one grass spread deck that's pretty reasonable. It plays a Celebi that puts damage counters on everything. It's got a pretty good alternative ability as well. And then it's got a sweet Decidueye that does damage to the active and damage to the bench. So that's also a cool deck. Check it out if you want to. Cherim Eldegoss builds, those are kind of like the Rillaboom and Venusaur lights. And then there are a couple of sweet evolution cheat decks out there that use the Meganium to skip evolutions, or there's Parasect, whose attack just puts two Pokemon from your deck into play. So you can just evolve into Parasect, attach an energy, use this attack, and you got Venusaur and Rillaboom on your bench, and it's pretty sweet. So those are just some things to check out if you're interested in the grass. All right, Bat Squid, it's your time. Water time.
Water, water, and I'll try my best on this one, right? Because, like I said, I'm still new to all of this. So, um, I came from standards, so the big Excalibur Super Cold ability, and I guess it's a rain dance. They call it rain dance. Is it an old ability from the past or?
Yeah, so the very first Blastoise in 1999 Pokemon, like the first printing of Blastoise, its actual ability was Rain Dance, which is just attach energy from hand. So that's just kept its name. Other things like Gust of Wind was one of the cards in base set that's also just kept its name. Gust has become Gust effects for like bosses or Guzma. So again, a lot of those names just come from the original printings.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, yeah. So then these are basically the rain dance. What's that word called? That one I'm thinking about. They inherit the inheritors, right?
Oh
Of
yeah.
that same ability. Where once per turn, you could attach as many water energies from your hand to one of your Pokemon with the Frost Moth, Excalibur, that Deluge Blastoise. My personal favorite one's not on here. The Vitality Spring one. It's not really a rain dance kind, right? Because it ends your turn. Not
Mhm.
as strong as these other ones, but that water has a whole bunch of of support Pokemon that could attach that water from hand, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And Blastoise and Excalibur here. There's the Deluge Blastoise, and then like you mentioned, the Super Cold Excalibur. They can attach it to any Pokemon. Frostmoth a little bit more limited in its capacity. It can only attach to the bench, but it's a stage one, so it's
That's
easier
the
to have
plus.
access to. And then what you really want in these decks is like redundancy. Like, hey, someone's going to go after your War Turtle, right? When they know Blastoise is coming. Well, put your Snom on the bench and then evolve into Frostmoth. You have that backup contingency plan. So Water is just really great because it's got so many cards that do the same thing. Well, hey, here's three options for Rain Dancers. And like you mentioned, we're going to mention a special energy build that uses the Vitality Springs Blastoise coming up. That's another huge key piece of energy acceleration that Water has access to. All
That's
right,
good.
the
That's good.
engine. Talk us through this engine, man. Water has a bonkers consistency engine. This outside of Rain Dance.
Really, when I came into standard, it was right whenever this Drizzle Shady Dealings ability was about to rotate out. And it's so good, dude. It's so good. You evolve from Sobble to Drizzle Shady Dealings. You get to go and look for any trainer card you want. And then Inteleon is same thing, but you get to go look for two. Shady Dealings is such a good drawing. You could go find anything, anything you want, right? So a supporter, items, and then the Octillery with that abysmal hand that just keeps you safe from getting like Ionoed and get to get up to your 5 cards. So you're always getting something, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And like you mentioned, artillery. If you have to discard cards, it's like not even a matter of a high cost. Like, hey, I'm going to ultra ball away 2 cards. That means I get to draw 3 cards with artillery, right? Like you're
Mm-hmm.
just drawing 3 new cards by discarding to ultra ball. It's ridiculous. So like these cards have kind of kept Water head and toes and shoulders above what all the other decks are doing in the format. Maybe Psychic can keep up with the support that this has, but Water has the best consistency engine in the format in the terms
Hand
of shady
downs.
dealings and Abyssal.
Shady Dealings is the best. Shady Dealings, in my opinion, is the best engine.
Like we mentioned with Roserade, Roserade gets you any 1 card. Drizzile does basically that, and then Inteleon does it again and gets you 2 of them. So like if Grass had this same effect, just imagine. Then you
Broken.
scoop this up and do it again. Oh,
Yeah,
so good.
yeah. Just scoop up net every time. Yeah.
It's worth mentioning too. Inteleon for 2 energy that puts 140 damage on the board. So like it's a
That's a
bonkers
really good
attacker
attack,
too.
to
Yeah,
be honest. Yeah.
yeah. So like just so good. Free attack Water. We got Vulpix and we got Basculin. Both of them search up 2 Pokemon. Vulpix any 2 to hand. Basculin 2 basics to the bench. What do you prefer in your builds?
The
You have Vulpix.
Basculin,
Okay.
I just and the reason why, because I had it. I don't have the Vulpix, right?
Okay.
But the Basculin is in my decks. And yeah, man, for free, get to go set up your bench. You start that off, right?
Free attacks, yeah, are just great. And the fact that like your first turn, like this is basically Sonya, if you think about it. Like you're just getting a free supporter from your free attack.
And go
So
get 2 basics.
Basculin,
Yep.
yeah, Basculin puts 2 on your bench. Vulpix can get you that Drizzile if you already have bench Sobble. Like this is just like one of the things that Water has going for it outside of already busted support is a free setup attacker. Now, Basculin has a way better evolution. Like I don't even know if the Avolan Ninetales sees any play, but like there are 2 pretty good Basculegions that see play. So including Basculin in your deck, there's really not any cost in that because you're going to be evolving into something that could potentially take a KO down the line. So,
Yeah. I need to find me one, to be honest.
oh yeah, there's the Basque Legion with like the Grudge Dive attack, which is a revenge attacker, and then there's the one that shuffles energy back into your deck and does 20 times the amount of energy you shuffled. So like it's like Basque Legion, so good, so good.
Hmm.
Water specific trainers. Hey, we got Nessa, Irida, Dive Ball. Nessa gets 4 Pokemon back to your hand, 4 Pokemon or water energy back to your hand. Irida gets a Pokemon that has to be water and an item card it puts in your hand, and then Dive Ball is any water Pokemon. So some busted type specific trainers as well that really, really, really help you get fast starts. Because Irida gets you evolution and rare candy, so you can have Blastoise as early as turn 2. You can even like Drizzile go grab Irida, and then Irida can even set you up further along down the road. Like it's just so incredible how Water can get off to these fast starts.
I forgot who it was. Was it you or Weeder who said that with water, the one of the hard parts is just knowing what to go grab because you have ability to go get whatever you want. Sometimes just knowing what to get is the hard part.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's like the hardest part when you're starting out in Gym Leader Challenge is like getting any card is powerful. Getting the right card is hard to do.
The misplays I do, dude, all the time. I misplay so much off of a shady dealings just because I start panicking. I'm like, oh shoot, what do I get? All these options every time.
Yeah, other TCGs don't have the same like search capacity that Pokemon does. Like in Magic, you're drawing like one or two cards a turn at best. You're playing with what's in your hand, and like you're very rarely just being able to go into your deck and grab anything. So in
They don't go
Magic,
through their deck at all. Yeah,
no, no, very rarely. So like you're like playing like, hey, here are my pieces. Like here's the context that I'm using. How do I use this to the best of my abilities? And Pokemon is like, hey, there are these really sweet cards in my deck. How do I go and get them this turn? And it's very
yeah,
likely that I go and get six different cards and do something. Like it's just kind of incredible. Well, all right, let's talk about to the decks and then we'll call it a night, Basquid. You know, we've already been
sounds
talking
good.
for an hour and a half. I was thinking that this was going to last roughly about an hour, but
I,
we've
I
gone over.
I pulled it back a little bit because I was like, man, I'm talking too damn much. It's already almost 2 hours.
You're talking too much, man. I'm talking too much.
My bad, my bad.
But hey, let's talk about the hydro pump list. You play. I'm gonna say you play similar to the hydro pump list, right? But you kind of sub in your Vitality Springs Blastoise instead of the Deluge Excalibur that this list is playing. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, but this is the hydro pump list. We've talked a little bit about hydro pump, again, air quote attackers here, which is basically just like for each water energy attached, it does extra damage. So this is like a traditional hydro pump list that plays Rain Dancers. This one has Baxcalibur. It's got Frostmoth as a backup. You're playing those key engines that we talked about, Shady Dealings, Drizzile, and Inteleon. You got Octillery to draw up to 5, and then you just got massive hydro pump Wailord. You got Wishy Washy, who's just a 180 basic that does 130 damage. And then you have Space Beacon Starmie, discard a card, get 2 energy back from your discard pile to your hand. So it's just a way to keep getting back energy once one of your Hydro Pumpers has gone down. And then Lapras, which is a basic Hydro Pumper. And then maybe the best water attacker, Kyogre? What do you think? Do you think Kyogre is the best water attacker?
I do. Just because if you have Excalibur set up, you're just that thing's going back and forth all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Kyogre here has the dynamic wave attack. So basically, you have to attach 4 energy to it. 3 need to be water, 1 colorless, and it does 180 damage to anything on your opponent's side of the table. So it can go active, it can go bench. The contingency is that you have to put 3 energy back into your hand. But if you have back Scour set up, like you said, that's not even a problem. You just throw it back on Kyogre, or you
Hmm.
actually like save that energy, and then your Kyogre gets knocked out. Well, now you still have that energy in hand. You can just attach it to something else, and you can KO something in the following turn. Like it just pairs perfectly with everything that Water's trying to do. And
Yeah.
180 damage on a basic, that's busted.
That's knocking out a lot of stuff right there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There are very few things that survive the format. Of course, ironically enough, one of the things that does survive is Wailord, which is played in water decks.
Yeah. So we're good.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that water has going for it too, like you'll see in this hydro pump list, is it's playing Professor's Letter, which gets 2 basic energy from your deck and puts them into your hand. But it's also playing Capacious Bucket, which is the water specific Professor's Letter. So you just grab 2 water energy. So these decks just have a ton of access to energy, whether it's in their deck, whether it's in their discard pile with Space Beacon Starmie, or they can just always draw into it with Octillery. Like it just has so much access to the energy and draw power.
Yeah. Good list. Good list.
Yeah, good list. Give the credit to Andrew Mahone from Tricky Jim. I just took it off his website. Like he's been
It's
playing this deck
solid.
for a while. So yeah. All right. Now we got to talk special energy water. And this is your boy, Vitality Springs Blastoise. So this is a list that's coming to us from Harry. Harry won a tournament with it. I'm a big fan of the special energy water list. I think it might be the best water list. There might be like 1 or 2 other considerations, but I definitely think that this list is very strong and very powerful. So, hey, tell us what Special Energy Blastoise does, Basquid.
So the difference with this Vitality Spring one is it lets you go search for any energy. So that's what the special energies come into play here. The other ones is specific water energy. The
Mm,
Vitality Spring Blaster doesn't have that contingency, right? It just says energy. So you can go and find the what is it, the wash energy?
yeah.
What's the one I play? Splash. I like the splash energy, man. Splash energy is great to have in there. You get knocked out, your Pokemon goes back into your hand, so you can just put them right back down, start all over again. This that Blastoise is my preferred. Vitality Spring is cool. Honestly, I just like the art. That's why I picked him. I like the art, and he hits hard, dude.
Yeah.
He hits
That,
hard.
Vitality Strength Blastoise is definitely like the best attacker out of
Yeah.
the Rain Dancers. Excalibur is a close second, I would say. Again, like, and it gets 6 energy from your deck. Like, it grabs 6 from the deck and attaches them to your Pokemon in any way you want. Of course, you have like the downside that your turn ends, but when
Hmm.
you're playing like beefier, tankier Pokemon like the special energy Wailord, like, you don't mind if your turn ends because you just have a Wailord that's taking 30 less damage in the active that's going to hit for 240 next turn. It is just, hey, can you deal
Yeah.
with this?
Like you said too, it's you could get that off turn two with the Irida rare candy straight into it. So I mean, you don't fall too behind if you set it up pretty well.
Yeah. And then, like, again, your Pokemon are kind of tanky, so you're trading 2 for 1 a lot, especially with that Wailord. This is playing White Kyurem too. Like, White Kyurem is a kind of a tougher basic 130 HP. If it has a fire energy attached, it does 80 plus 80, so you're hitting 160 with a basic, which is another good number to hit. You're playing only 1 fire energy, but you have another special energy, which again, Blastoise just grabs special energy.
Hmm.
Like, that's the reason to play this Vitality Springs Blastoise. Some lists are playing Satitan. There's a Satitan that does 220 damage if it has a special energy attached. Harry opted not to go that line, but a lot of the lists are running the Satitan, which I can see is like, that's where my list is at. I'm playing the beefiest boys I can, and I'm attacking
This is
hard.
solid. I like this. I haven't seen this list like this. This is pretty good.
Oh yeah,
I might try to adjust to this.
yeah. Recommend it. Recommend it. Harry's got the tournament one with it. Well, besides that, hey, water has a lot more viable builds because it's got such a powerful engine. Inteleon Drizzile, that Shady Dealings abilities are just some of the best that you can ever see in all of Pokemon printing. So, like, because that engine exists and because every single water deck would be dumb not to play it, every single water deck can be good because of that. And then you have a lot more like fringe rogue list putting up results. And so a lot of these lists that I have on the screen are only like a step down from those 2 lists that we showed you, if not even with them, just because, like, again, Octillery and Teleon, they're just like 2 of the best things you can be doing in all of GLC. So these water lists are just a shoulder and head above like what fighting is trying to do and some other things. So anyway, Palafin builds. Palafin is crazy, dude. Palafin 2 energy, if it's switched into the active, does 210 damage. So there's a lot of like water builds that are focused with those low energy builds. Fishy Jump, which is my favorite build to play. I don't know where it's got its name from, but Fishy Jump is like a list that he plays Rapid Strike Starmie, which can bench snipe. So it's a
That's the
super
one you
fun
killed
list.
me with. That's the one you
That's
look. Yeah, that's the one.
that's my list. That's my list. I always like to play decks that have like a ton of comeback potential, which is one of the reasons why like falling behind doesn't phase me anymore. So
Yeah, that
playing
was
that
good. That's
deck
good.
and just being able to be like, you basically just machine gun down your opponent's bench with your Rapid Strike Starmie in a single turn, and it's just great. It's so rewarding to do if you ever get to pull it off. And then Articuno, I think, is played in that deck too, and Articuno takes 2 prizes.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the funnest lists in all of water is the free water. Have you seen free water, Basswood?
I haven't. I think Z-Man was playing it on stream one time. Is that the one with the duck
I don't know if it has the
camera?
duck in it. So it has the cast forms, and the cast forms say that if you have like 9 stadiums in the discard pile, their attacks are free. So the
Does he
whole
actually get 9 in the discard?
Yeah, yeah. So this is an archetype that came to fruition from Mickey B313, and he's basically playing like all these discard outlets. He's playing like 13 different stadiums, all which are pretty useful. So like you don't mind playing out your stadiums, and then you're playing like a whole bunch of cards that are like, hey, discard 2 cards from your hand, draw 3 cards, or like cards that do stupid things like that that don't see a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of play in GLC, but are actively good in his deck. So you're just like playing these free attackers. You're playing the Cramorant that's very widely played in standard in like the Lost Zone toolbox decks. So like that's another out you have to a free attacker. So all your attacks are free. And because you're not playing any energy, you just have room to tech so many cards in your deck.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's definitely a list that's like on the fringes. He's won a tournament with it. I've seen players at regionals playing free water. So definitely check it out if you're into those sorts of things. Maybe not your first GLC water deck, but once you're like kind of in
This is
franchise.
getting up there in that skill level. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a fun deck to play. I've played it once on stream. I did terribly with it. I didn't know any of the lines, but once you know the lines, it's good. Then the last two that we'll talk about, there's a Rapid Strike deck, which focuses on the Rapid Strike synergies. There's like a Rapid Strike Energy, which is 2 water instead of 1 for a single attachment. You've got Rapid Strike Starmie that we talked about that does 30 for each water energy you discard to any of your opponent's Pokemon. There's a Lapras that does like 100 to the bench, and then that energy jumps back into your hand. And then there's a Cloyster that does like 50 to the active, and then I think it does 30 to the bench. It either does 30 or 20. So there's a couple of different Rapid Strike synergies that go on within this deck. And then on top of that, there's another Octillery that goes through your deck and searches any Rapid Strike card. So I don't know if
Mhm.
that Octillery is better to play than the one that draws 5 cards or that draws up to 5, but there's definitely options in the Octillery line.
Yeah.
And the last list, water, with all of this great, engine to go and grab cards from its deck. It has a pretty solid control build. There's like a Floatzel that keeps recovering item cards from your discard pile. There's another deck that like basically tries to take all 6 prizes with Whale Lord. It's called Leviathan that Weeder's been working on. So there's a couple different control strategies in water. There's a Wug Trio Mill deck that's kind of going around. So
That's
water
what I
just
want
kind
to
of
see.
yeah, yeah. There's just all these kind of like niche water builds that are like exist out there that can definitely win some games if you know the format pretty well. Control exists; it's there.
That's good. That's good, man. Yeah, there's a lot of options on that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that Wug Trio Mill. That looks fun.
Any closing things? And we're getting close to like an hour and 40 minutes here. This is going way longer than I thought it would. We might have to kind of trim down in the future on some of the things we talk about. Maybe it's going to be one type per episode. Maybe it's even less than that.
I'm glad, man. It was fun to get to actually hear how you started and stuff like that. I think that's why I write. So like maybe you won't have to do that next time. But I appreciate you, man, sharing this with me. Like I said, I was flattered that you asked me to be a part of this. I know I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about the GLC and different kind of cards, but like I said, it's I love the format, dude. I like the community. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, hey, that's what we need. We need more people just like talking about Gym Leader Challenge, talking about their experiences, getting new people in here. Like that's what this is all about. This is what this podcast is going to be about. Let's talk GLC. Let's talk some cool cards. Let's talk cool decks. Like that's where I'm at. I just want like new blood, new ideas, and hopefully like we can just get people on here. We can get you back next time talking to us
For
about your
sure.
Wug Trio Mill deck that you tried out. Like that's what I want in this world. That's what I want this podcast to be about. Um, Sharing ideas because it just feels so divided right now. There's no online client. Like no one's looking at like deck list results. Like no one knows what the best deck is even right now. Like there's so much debate about what the best deck is. Like no one's even being like, where's the results? Where's the tournament results? They don't exist. So I want to break this format. I want to find the coolest, most fun thing to do that's going to win me all the games.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
cool. That'd be cool. Well, we got a good starting point. It'd be fun.
100%. Well, hey, that's it. Let's close it out. So thank you guys for joining us on our very first episode of the Let Loose podcast. Again, a podcast dedicated solely to the Gym Leader Challenge for us. We'll be back next week. I can't remember who's hosting, but it should be a good one. Have a good night, everyone. Best with you too. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate it.
Nah, man. Thank you, bro.